We've been talking about this hidden agenda that God has for us. So much of our Christian faith is supposed to be played out in the open, but we've been talking about these three things that God has asked us to do in secret. We've looked at the hidden agenda of our heart, which is found in the secret time of prayer. We've talked about what it would look like for us as believers to have this secret time only for God, set aside all other things. And then we talked about the hidden agenda of our hearts as it's found in the secret sacrifice of fasting, and how fasting was so much more than just not eating. It had to be accompanied by these righteous works and this heart that was right in all of humanity when you're dealing with men and dealing with the poor. And this series kind of it grows into this last idea, which is really the beginning of this story on the Sermon on the Mount, and that is this: the hidden agenda of our generosity is the secret life of giving. The secret life of giving. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, but have you ever spoken with someone who no matter what the conversation was, always ends up about them? I mean, don't raise your hand or elbow the person next to you, okay? But you know what I'm talking about. You're having a conversation and they ask you, how are you feeling today? And you're like, it's okay. And before you know it, it's a long litany of their life. And you're like, did you ask me or did you just want to tell me about your life? Or maybe you found somebody who's just, no matter what, they always have a one-up story. I have to admit that sometimes happens to me. I'm guilty. Sometimes I'm like, that story is nothing, man. You got nothing on me. But I'm sure that all of us have faced that, or maybe some of you have encountered or done something really generous or really good, and you thought to yourself, oh, this is a cool secret, I'm gonna do this, but you just couldn't resist. You had to tell someone about it. You had to share it. I'll never forget the first time this happened to me. I was in high school, and I was in for a short period of time in Denver, Colorado, and my mom was getting trained to be a travel agent, and I was at a small Christian school, and I mean really small Christian school, and I was on the basketball team. And I love basketball, I love playing basketball, and I was one of the better players even as a ninth grader, and I was so excited about that season. And of course, everybody up there in Denver thought, how can people in Alaska be good at basketball? And that's a good question, it was valid. But I loved it. And unfortunately, what happened was my mom finished her schooling, and in the middle of the season, we moved back to Anchorage. Yeah, that's what I thought. Not only that, my brother and I drove our little tiny Honda Civic station wagon. You remember what one of those looked like? Up the Elk Canyon in February. It was quite an adventure. I'm not sure, we just controlled the car, kind of guided it as it went up. Actually, he did all the driving. I did all the screaming. We're gonna hit that car. We're gonna die. But one of the things that I had done is, right before I had left, we were getting ready to go on this really big trip. We were going to get to go down to this, I think it was in Texas. We were going to get to play at a tournament. We were so excited, but we had to raise the money to do it. And all the guys were struggling because it was a really expensive trip. And so one of the things I asked my mom is, I said, Mom, is there any way that I can just pay for the whole trip for everybody to go? Can I I would love to bless this team with this trip. So we came up with an agreement, and I was able to pay for the trip for them to go, and I felt so good about myself. I mean, I thought, these guys are gonna love it. But when I got older in life, I started to share that story, and I started to have a lot of pride about it when I was younger. I was in high school, and I'm like, hey, yeah, I did this one time for somebody. I paid for a whole team to go on a trip. I was talking to probably my own teammates, and I just remember this empty feeling immediately in my life that was like, hey, did you do that because you love those guys? Or because you wanted to be known as the guy, that guy, the guy who paid the way, the guy who was the blessing person. And I started to realize that I just slowly sabotaged any goodness that I could grant someone else by it always being about me. Have you ever had one of these moments, one of those moments where you just knew the moment it came out of your mouth, you realized, it was really about me, not about God. It was really about me, not about what God was doing in my life. You ever had one of those moments? Do you ever have one of those moments where you were generous, but you just couldn't keep your mouth shut? Or maybe you were generous, but you really were generous because you expected something in return. Now, most husbands and wives are guilty with this one. You know, I'm going to be generous to that person, but I need something in return. I want something in return. Or maybe you haven't experienced this because you've just flat out never been generous. Maybe we need to rewrite. And by the way, that's because our next series in a couple of weeks we're starting up. It's called Ante Up. And it's going to be, as this passage continues, we're going to be talking about what does that mean to give? What does it mean to give for the right heart reasons? But today, we're going to go back to this passage. If you have your Bibles, let's open them up. Matthew chapter 6. We're going to be looking at this, the hidden agenda of our heart, our secret life of giving. Remember the context here. Jesus speaking after 400 years of silence. He showed up on the scene. He's sharing the Sermon on the Mount, the equivalent of the Ten Commandment conversation Moses had with the children of Israel. He is starting to portray all these truths that they're not practicing. They're overwhelmed with what's happening. And he gets to chapter 6 and he starts talking. Chapter 5, he's talking about all kinds of things, the blessed things, what you're going to be, salt and light, making a difference. And all of a sudden he goes to this chapter and it's all about this heart issue. This hidden agenda of our hearts as Christians. It says this in Matthew chapter 6 and verse 1. Beware of practicing righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them. For then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. No reward for your Father is in heaven. Pure righteousness is a matter of the heart, not just the action. We have to understand that and know that from the very beginning. That is the core understanding of this series. That everything that you do in life is about your heart, not just about your actions. I think so many times we as parents, we as people forget that to be true. But then he continues to say this. Thus, when you give to the needy, when you give to the needy. It's a pretty important phrase. It makes a lot of assumptions. It doesn't assume that when or if, it's when you give to the needy. The phrase when you give to the needy refers to the act of giving mercy, pity through giving. You see someone who is hurting, you have pity on them, you want to show them mercy, and you engage in giving. It makes the declaration that all of us should be this person. Recognizing this truth that Jesus expects us to show mercy, have pity, and give to those in need. It's just not something we do by accident. Church, listen to me. This hidden agenda, this secret heart of giving, this secret life is for you and I to understand something that every one of you who call yourself a Christian, every follower of Christ is someone who sees people, wants to grant mercy and show pity and meet needs through giving. It's something Christ followers do intentionally and on purpose. On purpose. We're not talking about your tithes and offerings. We're not talking about what you do for God. No, this is talking about what you do for people, which is doing for God, by the way. Do we have a church like that? Do we see people hurting and in need and reach out to them? Notice verse 2 says this, sound no trumpet before you. Oh, thus when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you. Now, when I read that, when you read that phrase, you're like, are you kidding me? Can you imagine this? Here you go, buddy. I mean, just the phrase itself catches me by guard. I'm thinking to myself, who would do that? Who does that? You're like, oh, I'm good. I don't sound a trumpet. That's not what I do. So I'm good. Whew. Yeah. That's what you're thinking in your heart. This is not exactly the idea. This idea is don't boast about it. This statement of blowing your trumpet is not about an actual trumpet. I hope you understand that. I'm sure you do. Because all of that would be ridiculous. No, it's a phrase that means to flaunt your generosity in front of others. Flaunt your generosity in front of others. In other words, your heart is about flaunting all that you have, this wonderful dollars and cents that you're going to bless this poor little person who's in desperate need of you. It sounds like our government. Their motives are not pure. They don't really care. They're into control. Matter of fact, that's why they keep coming up with a number bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Because they got to impress you, because a billion doesn't quite grab your heart like a trillion. Listen, the word is very clear. It's not because we give because of applause. We don't give because of a vote. We give because we love people and we love God. This is what the passage is talking about. Yeah, I think of this concept when I thought about basketball myself. When you're dealing about this flaunting, and put yourself in a place where you struggle with flaunting something. You just can't keep your mouth shut. You got to brag, or you got to boast. You got to do something. And as a basketball coach, there was a time in my life where we were pretty good at basketball. Man, we were just annihilating teams. We were crushing people. We were so excited about beating people up, and we were going to be a state champion, and we were practicing hard to be college athletes, and everybody was working. My team was working so hard. And one day I realized that after the game, these guys would be running by the scoreboard to look at the scorebook. And I also noticed that there was a lot of conversation on the court that had nothing to do with their team. It was called trash talking. Have you ever been engaged in that? I mean, trash talking. I'm going to talk so highly about myself and how bad you are that somehow I'm going to play a mental game with you. I think Michael Jordan started that with who? Larry Bird? Those two. Maybe it was Irving Jack. It was Magic Johnson. You just talk trash. You know, we got to talk so highly. We got to flaunt ourselves. We got to do something big. Do you do that in the church? Do you do that when you're doing good? Do you do that when you're giving to someone else? We came up with this phrase because I hate and I can't stand that stuff on the basketball court. The phrase was this: let your work speak for itself. Shut up and play. Just be known for being a hard worker, dedicated to doing your very best. But in the Christian life, it's a little different. You might want to add this phrase to the end of it: but let your work speak for yourself and let God be glorified. When it comes to this idea of giving, let your work speak for itself and let God be glorified, not you. Just take a moment to understand that truth and live by it. It will change the way you think about the way you give. You see, these actions, these ideas of giving are a battle of the heart. That's why Jesus is talking about it. He's talking about it because our natural tendency is to boast about what we have done. Notice how this passage continues. He says this: sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets. Jesus makes an interesting statement here. Synagogues and streets. Why the two phrases? Because those are two different places. Not in the church. We shouldn't be boasting in the church, and outside of the church. But in this situation, I want you to think about it this way. Don't be boasting among those who you want to be respected by. In other words, we don't do good things to boast so that the people we want to be respected by will respect us. Oh no. Or among those who we want approval. This is the synagogue. Your world where you show up, where you want to be someone. The Pharisees wanted to be someone. They wanted to be known as these spiritual people. And so this is where they would brag and boast about how much they were giving or what they were giving to and why it was so important to them. And then he says this phrase, in the streets. I want you to think about this: among those whom may respect you more by hearing it. So not only are you trying to get the attention of those who you want respect, but you're also doing it in such a way around a group of people that you're like, hey, yeah, little people, yeah, notice me. I'm somebody. Because all of them are looking up to you. Your kids are looking up to you. Your peers are looking up to you. This idea of streets, among those who make you feel so important. Now, this is passion. This is very difficult. Note this. This attitude is not about the event as much as it is about your heart. Notice this is part of your heart. The reason why we don't do it in the synagogues, or the reason why we don't do it in the streets, is because, again, this is a battle of the heart. And Jesus is trying to say something. I need your hidden agenda to be mine. I need your agenda to be what I'm about and what I'm doing. That's going to require some secret things that you're not going to get credit for. You're not going to get credit for praying. You're not going to get credit for this fasting time. You're not going to get credit for this giving away to the needy. No. I need that time. I need this personal relationship with you so you never forget. Verse 2 says this at the end, that they may be praised by others. Why did they give it? That they may be praised by others. Why are we so driven for the approval of others? I ask you a personal question just to think in your own heart and mind. Why are we, I'm putting myself there, everyone in this room, why are we so driven by this pursuit of approval from others? Why is it that you just do some of the dumbest things so that somebody will approve you? You'll drink some of the stupidest things, smoke some of the stupidest things, watch some of the stupidest things. Why? So you can get approval. You'll do some bad business deals to get approval. But a lot of times we're looking for approval from our fathers because we're so desperate for their attention. Our mothers, our coworkers, our peers, our friends, our girlfriends, our boyfriends. We find ourselves here trying to make ourselves look as good as we can, because if they knew our real heart, they would never like us. Why do you seek approval? Why is Jesus talking about this giving thing? He's making something very clear. I don't want you to steal my glory. The good things that you do on my behalf are for me alone, for my glory and not your glory. And I will be the one, as he continues to say. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. You will receive the reward that you get from those people. Listen, I want you to know that it's not that you don't get a reward. Oh goodness, when I did that nice thing for those basketball players back in Colorado, oh man, the adults thought I was the coolest, nicest, most generous guy ever. I got all kinds of pats on the back. Hey son, you did good. Ron, my name was Ronnie back then. Ronnie, that was so nice. That was so nice. And I felt really good. I was like, oh. Because you want to impress adults, by the way, if you're a kid. Kids, stop it. We don't impress kids. That's the worst decision of your life. But if you impress adults, they got power, money, wealth, job opportunities. I mean, I don't know why any kid even hangs out with a kid. Like, I'd be hanging out with adults 24/7. That's what I did. I want to know adults. I don't want to know kids. They got nothing. They got nothing. But that was the heart. I received my reward. That's all that I received. See, our heart of generosity will either have a physical reward or we'll have an eternal reward. And sometimes, if we're really lucky, we'll get both. We'll either have a physical reward, and that is because it was all about us, or we'll have an eternal reward because it's all about God. Or we might get lucky and God would bless us with a physical and an eternal reward. Notice how he continues in verse 3. But when you give to the needy, assuming again you are, I want you to understand that point, because sometimes we read right over that. Assuming that you are, because everyone in this house today should be giving to the needy, should be contributing to those who are in need. When you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Another one of these statements, like the trumpet statement. Can anybody explain that to me? In reality, how can my left hand do something in my own brain and my right hand not know that it's doing it? As a young person, I would hear all kinds of translations and people talking about how, well, I just don't tell myself I'm giving, and so if I'm giving, I don't know. Because I don't want my left hand to know what my right hand is doing. So the best option is do nothing, because I don't want to be boasting about it. Not a good option. But yet sometimes we do that. What was Jesus meaning? It's simple. The text is not complicated. Don't make your giving about yourself. Don't make your giving about yourself. Let me say that again. Don't make your giving about yourself. We have a tendency to want to make our giving about ourself, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father who is in secret will reward you. This is the passage that starts this story about the hidden agenda, the secret agenda. So what are these characteristics? What is it that we need to learn from this passage that makes us understand who God is, makes us understand what it is to be in a secret life, in a relationship with Christ where we are so close that the intimacy pours out in our open life? First thing is this: the secret life of a giver has love for God. You say, Pastor Ron, that is so obvious. Is it? Is it? We all say here, I love God, and yet, I shouldn't say this, only 15% of this church gives to the church. Oh, I love God. I ain't giving him a dime, but I love God. Oh, I love God, but I don't help anyone in need because they got what they deserved. I mean, let's just face it. They get what they deserve. It's got a world of bad choices. Good luck. I'm so glad God does not do that to me because I'm a pitfall of bad decisions. And I'm sure you're not, and I'd like to meet you sometime. But I am. And so when I think about this, I think, what does the secret life of love mean? Notice this passage in 1 Corinthians about love. Chapter 13, everybody knows it for the most part. If you don't, this is a great verse. 1 Corinthians 13:3 says this: if I give all that I have, listen, if I give everything I own, if I give everything like the widow who gave 2 mites, which is all she had, we're going to talk about that in a minute. And if I deliver my body to be burned, if I do everything sacrificial, if I give everything to God, but I have not love, I have gained zero eternal reward. I have gained nothing. I can't get this through your head and my head enough. Our love for God must drive everything we do. It must be the passion behind all the decisions that we make. The reason why we struggle in transforming the world with the gospel is because we love ourselves more than we love our God. We sing these awesome songs, but they don't play out in the world. There is no love of God, there is only love of self, and this is why the secret life is so important. This is why we have this secret life of prayer and this secret life of fasting, because that's how we get to know God, and when we know God, it pours out in the rest of our lives. So we have to have a love of God first, then we have to have love for the brethren, and then we have to have love for the lost. Love. I mean, transforming love. Not saving grace that everybody loves to enjoy. No, transforming love that plays out in every part of who you are. But not just the secret life. The secret giver has a love for God, but this is the secret life of a giver loves the receiver of our generosity. Loves the receiver. I don't know how many times that people have given strictly because in their mind they think it's the right thing to do, or maybe they just think it's just something you do, but ultimately the person doesn't love the receiver. They'll love the receiver. We want to love those who we're giving to, which is those who are in need. We should be paying attention. Notice 1 John chapter 3 and verse 17. It says this: but if any of you has the world's goods, do any of you have the world's goods? You are all dressed in really nice clothes. The answer is yes. And sees his brother in need, yet chooses in his heart against him, how does God's love abide in him? Oh my goodness. That closes his heart against him. How does God's love abide in him? When you know that person in your circle of friends who's struggling, who's dealing with the issue, and you just do nothing. You don't love the receiver. It says God's love doesn't abide in you. The secret life of giving is totally destroyed because, again, you don't even love the ones God loves. Church, I want to challenge you. Do you love the receiver? Do you love the one who needs mercy? Do you love the one who needs pity? Do you love them? Or do you just love yourself? Do you care for them? Do you find yourself paying attention, looking on purpose, engaging in giving like the word says? But that's not the end of the story. The secret life of a giver not only loves God, loves the receiver, but he loves the opportunity to give. Let me say that again. Embraces and is excited about the opportunity to give. Now, I don't know about you, but I sometimes really do love the opportunity to give. But sometimes I'm just like, I don't want to do it. Sometimes I'm thinking to myself, this is why I'm not going to do it. Sometimes I think for myself, this is why that person or that person or that person doesn't need my love. I know they need mercy and I know they need pity, but I really, really, really would like to do this, and it would require a sacrifice, and I don't want to do that. The church, this secret life of giving, this idea of not boasting in what we do is driven by the mindset behind giving at all. Notice this passage, James chapter 2 and verse 14. This is really good. This is talking about, this is awesome. Let's get to it. What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? We hear this passage all the time. Faith without works is dead. We know that. Can faith alone save him? Can your faith save you if your life does not reflect this love of God? This idea of generous living. Because he goes on to say this in verse 15. If a brother or sister is poorly clothed, lacking in daily food, and one of you says to him, go in peace, be warm and filled, God bless you. Without giving them the things they need for the body, what good is your faith? What good is that? What good is it to come here on Sunday, sing these incredible songs, be fired up and excited about raising the voice, the name of God, be all about Jesus, rejoice in the fact that he saved us and changed us, look at our neighbor, look at our friend, look at that person and say, God bless you, buddy. I know your car just broke down yesterday, but a ride is not in my option. I can't get you there. I can't help you with that. I can't help you with that. Are you the excuse master? This is what it's saying. Let your work speak for itself. Show the world that you have the love of God within you. These are the four things. These are what should transform our life. The third thing is this third thing. Now listen to me. I want you to know something. Sometimes I'm always looking for opportunities for us as a church to do something cool like this. So I want to challenge you. Next Saturday at noon, we're teaming up with Cross and Anchor Church. And Brent over there has put this thing together. It's called for Street Reach 2021. Street Reach 2021. What he wants to do is this, and I think this is a great idea. We're going to partner with him. They're going to meet in the church parking lot right here. We're going to put together bags, these care package bags, and we're going to get into teams, and we're going to go and just be nice. We're just going to thank people. We're going to pray for people. We're going to give them some stuff, some of the things that they need. You might say, well, those people are drunks. They're this, they're that. They don't deserve my love. I'm here to say something. There's never a time when we should not be generous and kind to those who are lost, no matter what place in life they find themselves. You may be the only Jesus they encounter. Now, the idea is this: we do it in Jesus' name. We don't do it because we want glory. We don't do it for a cause to make us feel good. No, we do it because we love Jesus. So if you're interested in that, we would love to invite you. September the 11th at noon, meet in the church parking lot. We're going to be getting together and doing that. But that's not only it. The secret life of a giver loves sacrifice. Loves sacrifice. Loves sacrifice. Do you hear what I'm saying? Love sacrifice. Now, this is where I probably find myself struggling. I'm an American. Lazy. I make too much money. I have too many nice things. I didn't even know what sacrifice means. I bet many of you don't know what sacrifice means, and this is a shame for all of us. What does it mean to give sacrificially? What does it mean to give where it hurts a little? Notice this passage. It's found in Mark. It's the story of the widow that gave 2 mites. Notice this. Jesus again sat down opposite of the treasury and watched the people putting money into the offering box. Many rich people put large sums of money in the offering, and they were welcomed, by the way. It's wonderful. And the poor widow came and put in 2 small copper coins, which make a penny. And he called his disciples to him. Notice how he called his disciples to him. He wanted to get this point across. Truly, I say to you, this poor widow has given more than all those who are contributing to the offering box. For they contributed out of their abundance, but she, out of her poverty, has put everything she had, all that she has given, to live on. Church, there's a part of us that lives so selfishly, we can't even, let's just be honest, we can't comprehend that. I mean, this is why. I know this is true. People tell me all the time, I would give, but I'm strapped. I can't afford to do that. Did they read that story? Because I don't think that woman could afford to do what she did. But Pastor Ron, you could, hey, listen, don't worry about me. You take that up with God. I mean, I'm sure Christ will understand. So I'll tell you what, the next time you're thinking in your mind, I can't give to the church. Not only can't give to the church, I certainly can't give to the needy. There's no way. I just want you can just take that up with God. Stand before him one day in the presence. Oh, by the way, it happens in the secret place when we're having a secret time of prayer and we're having a secret time of fasting, that we look God in the eyes and we engage in what is a relationship with him where there is holiness and righteousness. And I'm telling you what, I struggle with this. When I am there, I realize I am so short of this kind of generosity. I struggle here, like many of you in this room. This idea of the secret life of giving is more than just about blowing a trumpet. It's more than just your glory. It's about your heart. It's all about you. So this Labor Day, I want you to think, I want you to consider this truth. Do you blow your trumpet or do you not give it all? Do you blow your trumpet or do you not give it all? Or do you give secretly? Because it's about him and not you. It's about him and not you. Now, this series has come to an end. It's important for us to understand this agenda of our heart, that we should be living out this secret time of prayer, this secret time of fasting, this secret life of giving. I'm going to challenge you. Will you make a big deal about following Jesus and live your life with the hidden agenda of God? Will you question every motive and every heart? Will you think and understand that the reason why you and I, all of us, are called to this secret life of prayer is so that when we go out in the world and live openly for Christ, when we are salt and light, we will act and live in such a way that the world will see our light be brighter. Do you understand that? It's a place where when we go out in the world that we remember that God's presence is with us, walking with us, hand in hand through life, and every decision, every word, every action, and everything that we do is to bring him glory. Because this is the secret agenda of God. This is his hidden agenda for you, this secret life that he desires. Will you consider Will you consider stopping being the person who just does everything on the surface and everything everybody can see, and start doing things that cannot be seen, that are only for his glory and not your own? I hope and pray that you can, and you will.
Hey everybody, Pastor Ron here. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Here at ABT, we make a big deal about following Jesus. Make sure that you subscribe and hit our notification bell so that you don't miss any of our upcoming video content. Also, if you'd like to support this ministry, please click Donate Now. Thanks for watching.